Good morning, Ramon. Good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, hi. Hi, Maria. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everyone who is now attending our session. It's good
Thank you
to
for
have you all.
inviting me.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me to talk about net zero, energy efficiency, environmental management.
Yes,
I
Maria.
know that, thank you again. I know that you were quite impressed with our latest publication in the London Chamber of Commerce magazine, Business Matters. So Caroline has kindly, from marketing, has kindly brought it up on screen to start the discussion with.
Yep.
So we'll be talking net zero.
Maria,
My,
this
uh,
article is actually very, very interesting. However, I have this question that, mm, caring for environment and efficiency, I think it's quite straightforward. I mean, everybody does that. And I guess the question, how can people, make mistakes in, regarding this net zero? Maybe you can elaborate and start on that.
oh, thank you for the question. A very good question for starters. Basically, this is the reason I wrote the article a few months ago. Uh, Based on, as you can see on screen, some recent reports, we now know that organizations that might have joined the Net Zero project and are currently committed to it actually uh, commit some mistakes. When they elaborate, when they introduce their policies, their objectives, they build up targets to reduce their carbon footprint, they actually do not follow a standard, but their own feelings, let's put it that way, about how to approach, how they feel about energy efficiency, net zero, etc. Many organizations, for instance, consider that using renewable energies is enough, is sufficient for them to achieve better energy performance. And in reality, it may actually reduce their costs, but increase their environmental impact. So when organizations approach net zero, they should consider um, some international standards, such as ISO 50001, and align the activities with the standard. It has been well designed, well elaborated, and can be used. I highly recommend reading reading the standard, talking to consultants, talking internally, and taking into account any potential issues, any potential interested parties, not only focusing on what we do internally and not only doing static energy reviews. Energy reviews are necessary, they're very good, but they're still only static. They give us kind of a picture of the moment on where we are, but they're not enough to tell us where we want to be and how to get there. So, what your take on the article is, aside for very interesting. Do you have any further questions for me?
Yeah, Maria. Actually, you mentioned ISO 50001. Is this a new standard?
Well, it's new to quite a lot of companies. However, its first publication, its first version, was published in 2011, 11 years ago. And it was published because under the industry pressure, after a few years of technical studies and quite a lot of work. So it's been more than 10 years, over 10 years now, working with the standard. The latest version is dated 2018, which means that it is aligned as well with um, ISO 9001 Quality Management System and 14001 Environmental Management System, and operates under the so-called Deming cycle, which consists in planning what we have to do, doing it exactly the way we have planned it, checking what has been done, and acting upon any deviations or any opportunities for improvement. It also has the same clauses as the rest of the current ISO management system standards, which means we can either align it with existing management system or integrate it into those existing systems. So it is not a new standard. It has been mm, proven in time as an efficient tool.
Great. Thank you for that, Maria. Thank you for elaborating on that, because a lot of people thought that it's a new standard. Um, I also have these questions whenever I talk to organizations, especially the small ones, small to medium organizations, which is actually most of the companies. Um, um, and the question is basically, what kind of organization this ISO 50001 is meant to? Because a lot of companies, smaller ones, they thought, how does this help them? Um, Example, a company with like 50 employees only or 100 employees, does this is this applicable to them as well?
Thank you for the question. With 50,001, we hear it a lot. As an ISO standard, you know that all ISO standards, management system ones, are meant to be applicable to any organization, regardless of its type, regardless of its size, complexity, geographical location, organizational culture, all the product and services it may provide. So 50,001 is applicable to small organizations as well as big ones. It is also applicable, because I know where you're going to, it is also applicable to activities affecting energy performance that are managed and controlled by the organizations, no matter what kind of energy activities. It can be an office, service providers, it can be a huge industry facility. It doesn't matter. It is applicable to any energy performance. So it is also applicable regardless of the quantity or the type of energy consumed. Again, it may help a small office and a big company. Uh, Again, it can be aligned with existing standards. So yes, you can use it in a big industry facility as well as in an office. Interestingly, speaking in percentages, office-based company can achieve higher percentages of energy efficiency. Why? Because it's easier for them to build up policies to switch off, let's say, computer monitors or automate their lights in the internal facilities. So it's much easier to optimize, therefore maybe reduce the consumption. And let's be very careful. With 50,001, people are now focused another mistake in here. People are focused on reducing energy consumption. it may not be achievable. Why? Because if you open a new production line, it doesn't make sense to target energy reduction and less energy use because you're going to use more energy by default. What we target with the standard is to make that use much more efficient. This is what we want to do, be efficient. On top of that, there are quite a lot of cases where organizations use renewables, and by increasing their use of renewable energies, they actually mm, worsen the environmental impact. So again, talk to your trusted consultants. I hope those will be MSM, and go through that gap analysis we do for our customers to find out what we actually have within our organization and make it much better. Any other questions on your side, Ramon? You said you had a few more.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I think that makes it much clearer now, in terms of, the how it really, what is the meaning of 50,001 ISO standards for, even for smaller companies. But can you be more specific in terms of what kind of issues does the organization be able to address with this 50,001 standard?
Oh, thank you again. That's a very nice question. The standard's main objective is to continuously improve energy-related performance and energy efficiency, as well as identify, where possible, energy reduction opportunities. Not always, as I mentioned, but it targets those opportunities. This systematic approach helps organizations establish systems and processes. So it's a dynamic tool. We've already mentioned that organizations of all types and sizes increasingly want to reduce the amount of energy they consume. They should start thinking about making it more efficient too. And the standard actually helps them reduce costs, reduce the impact of rising costs, therefore, meet legislative or self-imposed carbon targets, reduce reliance on fossil fuels, and therefore enhance the entity's reputation as a socially responsible organization. So while organizations target those activities, governments increasingly want to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of their citizens and industries, and are imposing legislative mechanisms to compel carbon reduction more and more frequently. So at some point, organizations will need to prove they they're legally compliant as well. So if I have to summarize it, the standard helps organizations continually optimize their energy use and therefore their energy costs and their greenhouse gas emissions too.
Yeah, great. That's great, Maria. I think that should be clearer now to, the viewers and the listeners, that the responsibility for environment is not, it's not only for the big corporations, but I think it should be appreciated now that even the smaller and medium companies has some say and should be able to contribute as well, because this is a concern for everyone. Um, and you mentioned earlier that we already have the 9001 and then the 14001 ISO standard. So I thought that this might be able to cover already uh, and address energy related issues. Um, would that not be sufficient already?
Another very good question. Another question that we hear from our customers and organizations, generally speaking. So let's enter into a few details in here to make it clearer. So there is a significant feature in ISO 50001, and this is the requirement to, let me quote it, improve the energy management system and the resulting energy performance. That would be in clause 4. Uh, the other standards you mentioned, 9001 and 14001, mm, undoubtedly require improvement to the effectiveness on the management system, but not in energy terms to the quality of the product or service or to the environmental performance. It is anticipated indeed that by implementing 9001 and 14001 together, an organization would improve quality and environmental performance, but, and here is a big but, those standards do not currently specify this as a requirement. It's implicit. ISO 50001 has made a major leap forward in, let me say it that way, raising the bar because it requires an organization to demonstrate that they have improved the energy performance. They are so far in the standard, there are no quantitative targets specified. So an organization and any organization that undertakes the activities of implementing it chooses its own, then creates an action plan to reach the targets. So with this structured approach, organizations are more likely to see the tangible financial benefits at the end. Let's say that it's 50,001 that requires for organizations to demonstrate the energy performance improvement, continual improvement.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Thank you for that clarification, and explaining, the relationship of ISO 19001 and 14001 uh, towards 50001. The other question that I also have when I talk to my prospective customers is that, well, how does this standard help organization achieve their targets? Is there a connection to that as well?
Yes, indeed. Well, ISO 50001, as any other ISO management standard, provides a framework of requirements. And that framework of requirements um, helps organizations develop a policy for more efficient use of energy, fix their targets, fix their objectives to meet the policy, use data. So we have a definition, a requirement for using data to better understand and make decisions concerning energy use and consumption, measure the results. And as any other ISO management system standard, it requires for a review on the effectiveness of the policy and for a continual improvement in energy management. So again, we based what we do on the dynamic cycle, plan, do, check, act upon any deviations or any opportunities for improvement. Again, it's a dynamic tool, not a checklist on what we have done a few months ago without considering our new organizational context, environment, potential new stakeholders.
All
Um,
right. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Here's another very straightforward question. Company uses a renewable energy. So does that mean that the company is already ISO 50001 compliant?
I remember I mentioned it at the beginning. Thank you for the question. I nearly forgot about elaborating on that one. So, very good question. Many organizations think that renewable energies sort out the energy efficiency problems and issues, which is not correct. There we go with another common mistake, as I mentioned earlier. So the installation of a renewable energy type within the scope and boundaries of the system uh, does not necessarily represent an energy performance improvement. Why? Because energy consumption across the boundary can decrease. However, there will not be measurable improvement in energy efficiency or energy consumption related to energy use as a result of the change. The consumption of renewable energy can have a positive environmental effects, can have other benefits, and organizations can have an objective to increase its installation. In such cases, organizations need to assess renewable energy production separately and very well, because to summarize what I have said is in so many words, if you get renewable sources of energy, you'll get cheaper energy. If you get cheaper energy, you may, because it's cheaper, use it more. Using more energy is not energy efficient, on the contrary. And in this particular case, if you increase your energy use, you worsen your environmental impact unless you assess that energy type separately and include it later on into your system, you may not be able to become energy efficient. I hope I've been clear enough. Uh, we are not discarding renewable energies. On the contrary, just saying because there, you are not by default becoming more energy efficient.
Well said. Yes, that's true. That's true. You cannot, abuse the use of it only because you're already using a renewable energy. You cannot. It's not necessarily mean that you're already efficient. You still have to have some policy on how to, properly use whatever kind of energy you have for you to be efficient. Well, yeah. Thank you very much for, for addressing these questions. These are questions actually that I normally have whenever I have an engagement with companies here in Asia. Lots of them, most of them are small to medium companies, and they thought that the 50,001 is only for the big companies. So I guess
Yes,
this would clarify a lot of things for them, that they
I
are
hope so.
also. Yes.
I
Thank
hope
you
so.
very much.
Thank you very much. So I don't think that we have any further questions. I've been monitoring with Caroline from our marketing department, who is behind the scenes, and I don't think that there are any left. Caroline, do we have any further questions coming from the chats or not? I suspect you're muted.
Oh, no, that's it. We've got no more questions come through, but I think you covered it very thoroughly, and that's probably why. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. So, shall we say bye to our attendees, invite them to our next session in a few weeks, and thank them for being with MSM and us. Thank you, Ramon, again for inviting me to
Oh,
do this
thank you
session
very
with
much,
you.
Maria.
Thank
And we'll
you.
be announcing our next sessions probably in LinkedIn, and we're sending emails to our customers. Yeah, thank you very much, Maria. Thank you,
Thank
Carol,
you.
for helping us discuss. Okay, bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye bye.